Welcome to the very first episode of Open Invite. This episode is brought to you by Royalty Street. More on that soon. Today's guest is a man who absolutely deserves an intro. This man is a third-degree karate black belt. He is a music producer, photographer, audio engineer. He is a husband to a beautiful wife. He is an expert researcher to an obsessive degree with a sonic memory like no other. He is the man behind the curtain of essentially all of my creative projects. He was supposed to be in Austin today, but he brushed those plans off to be here with us. Please welcome my best friend on this earth, Andrew Soriano, or better known on the internet as IQ Drew, because of his big brain. All that said, what's up, my boy?
Well, thank you so much for that intro. That was basically just a really fancy way of saying that I'm autistic, but I appreciate that. It's good looks.
So you were supposed to be in Austin today.
Kind of yes and no. It really just depends on how the plans that me and my wife were kind of making shook out. She had an extra day off of work, so then we decided that we had extra time, maybe we could do something. We had a really nice day yesterday. Just kind of really busy. We're moving a lot. We both hit the gym, and I was actually meaning to tell you. So that restaurant, Tacos and Avocados.
Yes, the one that doesn't have avocado sauce. Yeah, I know that one.
And we forgot to mention that to them. I was like, dang it, we should have told them. They're like, excuse me, do you guys have avocado salsa?
Yeah. No? Just badger them until they do it.
I'm saying, bro, there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way. Like if enough people ask them, they're gonna be like, yeah, well, why aren't we doing that?
Change.org petition. We got to do something. Avocados cannot be in your name and you don't have avocado sauce as a staple.
Right. It's like Burger King. We don't sell burgers here.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So we had gone to that restaurant before when they did their soft open. So they had invited a lot of the surrounding community areas to come by and try the menu, meet the staff, the management, kind of see what the whole vision behind the restaurant was. And when we went there, we were like, oh, okay, they had some stuff that was really good. And so it was really promising. We really wanted to see what it was going to turn into. And then we had gone a couple times, and we just really weren't as impressed as in the beginning when we had gone to that sampling event. And so for a long time, we were basically just I don't know. Is it a pipe dream? Is it just going to be one of those, not...
Dude, y'all have given that place more chances than I think anybody has. You guys have gone a number. I've gone probably 4 times because it's so close, and I've gotten the same thing every time. And every time, it's within a range of
a range of acceptability.
It is acceptable.
Is the best way I would describe it. But truth be told, we've probably only been there maybe 4 to 6 times, something like that. But we've spaced them out. So we're we'll go, we'll be, slightly underwhelmed. And then we'll be all right, well, we'll give them some time. They're new, they're still trying to figure things out. And then we'll go again. Be I ordered something different this time. Thought maybe it was the dish. Maybe it's just them. Certainly couldn't be me. But
dude, the way I try to rationalize it whenever I'm this isn't that good is I saw a clip where somebody said, if every meal that you eat is good, you're gonna die. I was like, damn, dude, that is so true. And so sometimes I'm like, you know what? We gotta have a little bit of grace for the bad food or the food that's just not the best.
I guess it depends on what do you mean by good, right? Because to be fair, I'm basically eating the same thing for breakfast every day, and I still think it's good. Eggs, cottage cheese, usually kale. This week I had to do spinach because I couldn't get the kale that I usually get. They had regular kale, and so I saw that. I was like, I'm not about to be chopping that up and mixing it in. So I was like, what's the next best thing? Spinach. They sell baby spinach there, which baby vegetables are essentially just younger versions of the regular vegetables.
Literally in their lifespan, they're not full of...
They're just not mature.
They're not mature vegetables.
But
I was thinking of it as in the EX versus baby version of Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
I was like, baby, is there a smaller version? Baby carrots, per se. Are baby carrots just made out of bigger carrots?
They are. They're literally
No.
It's you'd find a regular carrot that is hideous, And you're like, you look at it and you're like, no one's going to want this. So you shave it down and make it smaller. And you're like, now you look good. So let's put all of the rejects in a bag, all the fixer-uppers. It's like a used car that gets body work.
Dude, and then they took that concept, the concept of creating baby vegetables, and they created a service out of it where they were like, imperfect whatever. Have you seen that service where they're like essentially all of the rejected fruit, vegetables, and whatever because they look ugly, they're not good enough to go on the store shelves or whatever. That's a service. Now it's like you're doing good by buying this ugly vegetables and ugly fruits.
Empathy for produce is a new level of cringe. Like, they're ugly vegetables, but somebody's got to eat them. Yeah. You could be that guy. Where does it end? So you gave the example of it being compared to like an EX Pokemon versus a baby Pokemon. Mm-hmm. That's different. That's actually not how it is, because the baby versions of those vegetables are just as good. They're literally like same nutrients, the same nutritional value as a matured version of a vegetable, but they're just smaller.
And so they're just like mini Snickers?
There you go.
They're literally
it's the same thing.
What would be the mini version of a Skittle or an M&M?
An M. Lowercase only.
Lowercase M. They already have the lowercase in the logo. But do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, because you have those, I guess you would just have smaller packets. Less of them is the baby version.
Yeah, basically. But the fact that they're baby versions does make them easier to work with in cooking because, again, like you don't have to chop them up as much. And I believe they could also be easier to digest just because they're smaller. So there's that.
More surface area per serving, let's say.
Sure.
And I guess everything has the same surface area if you're chewing it up. If you're chewing your food right, everything should have the same surface area and should be able to be digested.
Yeah, but who really chews their food right? They say you're supposed to chew like, I think 40 or 60 times. Like,
40 or 60?
It's like an absurd amount of time. Like,
bruh.
It should take you essentially like a whole, like to bite. And you wait like a whole minute basically before you swallow and move on.
You seen that one guy on the internet who like will eat like a big scoop of mashed or potatoes, actual potatoes, and he'll just like gulp it down?
No.
Dude, he does not. He's going to die. That kid is going to die. He just doesn't chew his food. And somehow he like reviews it and he's giving people the reviews like, it's pretty good. It's like, how would you know, bro? It went in and down.
Yeah, and I might be wrong on the numbers there, but I remember when I heard the number, I was just like, that's a lot. Like, who's really doing their due diligence on chewing the food?
Sometimes I'm eating food and I have like a video playing or something like that. And then I remind myself, I'm like, turn this freaking video off, dude. Like, I'm eating, bro. Like, let me enjoy this. Let me actually chew it, swish it around and stuff like that.
Like tasting?
Yes. You just like wine tasting, but for food. You know?
Food tasting?
What's that one guy with the freaking spoon with the, what is it? Cowbell ice cream or something?
I think it's Cowbell ice cream. Yeah.
I don't know the brand, but he's just like, that guy, he understands savoring food.
Right.
Pull that up. We don't actually have a producer yet. He's actually going to be our producer, and essentially our young Jamie behind the scenes. You guys know who that is. But if you're into the podcast world at all, I would assume that you are. If you're in here, maybe you just follow because of who I am or what you've seen and stuff like that. But which I'm nobody. So he did a little, but this one we're already breaking the fourth wall. You know?
Has this ever happened to you where, because I know sometimes I'll be real hungry and like you're just like really going in on whatever it is that you're eating, and then you're like it actually hurts because there's so much bulk of food that you're swallowing.
Oh, you're talking about that deep, sharp pain?
Yes.
That I didn't know what that was.
And for whatever reason, for me, I feel like it only happens with things like bread-based things.
Which is the bulk of everything, honestly. If you're eating out anywhere,
true,
that's how they get you.
Back when I used to eat a lot of peanut butter, sometimes I would eat like too much peanut butter, and I'd just be like, oh God, dude, this is how it ends. Yeah,
peanut butter will dry you out. Dude, I feel like a lot of the, like every culture has its version of like, let's say bread. Mm-hmm. You know, as Mexicans, we have tortillas. Are there other Hispanic cultures that obsess about tortillas like we do?
When I went to Costa Rica, they had tortillas there. I actually saw a video about that the other day where it was talking about how tortillas are like the unsung heroes of Mexican food.
For sure, dude.
They're like, yeah, you know, the pollo gets all the attention, the salsa, like all that stuff. That gets all the hype. But underneath all of that, there's this man, this hidden gem just holding it together, being the backbone, like, yeah, being the Atlas of the Mexican food world.
That guy is the tortilla of our culture.
Yeah. I mean, hey, it's like edible utility, cutlery, spoons, forks, all that stuff.
Dang, dude.
Go, boom, done. No cleanup.
I got a business idea. We take tortillas, we stamp out some sporks-shaped tortillas, and we deep fry them. And that is not. And so do you just get one, scoop it up? Oh,
you might be onto something.
I might have just cooked. Actually,
you could sell like some kind of condiment or sauce, and then you have it could be a spork, it could be a spoon, but it's like the dip, and then you can just eat it.
Let us know what you think, chat.
We'll flesh
Should we make this idea? Should we create our own tacos and avocados? I don't know. We're giving them too much of a plug. Too much sauce. We should get them to sponsor.
We should.
You know? By the way, thank you so much to Royalty Street. We have 0 viewers right now. Literally no one knows that this podcast exists except for the people who are behind the scenes. And we already have sponsors. And so that is a beautiful thing. You know, we've got sponsors that believe in us for whatever reason. They know that this could be something that is actually fruitful in the long term. And so that means a lot that we would even have sponsors at this stage. We don't even have any test footage. This is the test footage. We are the
guinea pigs.
We're the guinea pig. This is the guinea pig right now. And they already believe in us. And so that's amazing. Thank you so much. Shout out Pong and Janjira, which we've got right here in both shots. They're good friends of the show. And so, yeah, that's something that I was thinking about. I was like, bro, we don't even have any views yet.
Right.
We have 1 follower. 1 follower on TikTok. And that's just because I shared the profile.
Oh, nice.
It's not like somebody just found us out of nowhere with no content and followed us.
Right.
But
what kind of psycho would do that?
It's happened before when I've created accounts that someone just follows, like a ghost follow or whatever.
Gotta be.
You know who they are.
Gotta be bots.
Yeah, or bots, or what are they? OnlyFans models or something like that are trying to promote their content. Dude, I did see this this thing online where this guy was trying to, you know, like the algo is super gooner, and so like super gooner algo, and this guy was trying to put not interested on, like, he was scrolling, and anytime that he would run into something that was like a gooner content, he would put not interested, but the button wasn't there. And if it was non-gooner content, then the button was there. What is happening, bro? Like, this is
interesting.
This is so fishy.
What platform was this on?
This was on Instagram.
Instagram.
Which is my favorite platform to, like, kind of veg out on.
Between Instagram and YouTube, those are probably, like, the most balanced kinds of platforms. Like, in the sense of what you can do when you compare it to other platforms like X, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. It's like, what are you really learning, like, on those platforms? Even though there's informational content on there, it's like, but are you actually going onto that platform with the intent, like, oh, I want to learn something on here? I feel like if I were to lose access to a personal social media account, like, that would just be wraps. I'll be like, all right, like, I'm out.
And you're like that, dude.
I'm like
anything
we had
that's
a good
too
run.
Inconvenient. Yeah.
But specifically for social media, again, like, personal wise, because one thing that I do, and I highly recommend people try this out if you've never thought about it, is I have different social media accounts for different interests that I have. So I build those algos and recommendations specifically for whatever it is in that niche, basically.
So when I send you Instagram Reels and you see the cover page, do you click on it and choose which account it opens up on?
It takes, I don't know, four actions. And granted, that's only if I'm like, I don't want this in my algo. If it's something where I'm just like, all right, we'll see. Sometimes it catches me by surprise. There's been probably only a handful of times where you've actually sent me something and I was on a different account. I'm like, oh, no, stop. Like, I don't want this to cook my algo. But yeah, try that out and see if that kind of helps you segment or compartmentalize different areas of interest. Because I really like it. Like I have a bunch of different YouTube channels. So like I have one for like gaming and tech. So it's like that's all that's on there. It's like just recommendations about gaming, what's going on in the tech industry, in the gaming industry, pretty much that. I have another one that's like just martial arts based. So like all the recommendations are about Muay Thai, kickboxing, UFC, different things like that. I find like I get better recommendations that way as opposed to just having one account and then it's like, here's something like this, here's something from one of your other interests, because it's recommending you from the infinite pool of content. And so why would I want to have so many different aspects of my interests like all in one place?
Yeah.
I guess for convenience, maybe a lot of people would like that, but I don't know if
we're on the opposite sides of things and that's how we are. Like we're just kind of like a yin and yang, you and I, of like the way that we function just in the world. And so for me, it's really good to have everything all in one place. And I don't even look at my subscribers anymore. I don't look at whatever the tabs are on the side. I couldn't tell you what they are because my algo on my on my YouTube account, because I've had it for so long, is so dialed in that I can literally open the YouTube app and it'll have something that I want to watch. I don't know what that says about me, but I know that it's refined. And then I hate it when, like, let's say we're signed into like the TV or something and my brother searches up something on my TV that has my account and then it messes up my, I start getting recommendations for Pimp C or something. I'm just like, Dad, they were drinking.
Yeah, that happened to me one time where I was trying to find, I think I was working on a song or like a instrumental for something. And I knew I was going to use like a Taylor Swift song as like a reference. And then I searched it up and I found the link for it so I could like reference the track and start building something that was similar to it. And then I realized later, like the next day when I got back on YouTube, I was like, why does YouTube think that I love like Taylor Swift now? And then I was just like, dang it, man. I freaking searched it up on my account. So now, of course.
Tragic, dude.
And I'm like watching the video, I'm like listening for like different parts of the song. And I'm like, so it's like I'm engaging with the video content. So the algorithm's like, oh,
You're
he's scrubbing back and forth.
Yeah, dude.
Like he's really engaged here. Nah.
Yikes. You ever see those little peaks whenever you're scrubbing on the YouTube timeline or whatever?
Those kind of ruined like a lot of videos for me.
Why?
The analogy that I use is like when you're reading a book, because I feel like one of the things, because I'm not like a huge reader, I'm starting to read a lot more now. But growing up just in general, and I imagine most people were like this too, like you're in school, you get assigned a book to read, and you're like, ugh, I don't want to read this book. And you just kind of like find whatever today's version of Cliff Notes are. I don't know if Cliff Notes still exists, but essentially, you're looking for the summary, you're looking for the bullet points of the book, so that way you can pass the assignment or write an essay on whatever the book is about. And from a like practical perspective, it makes sense. It's like, all right, well, just tell me what I need to know, so that way I can do whatever I need to do. And I feel like people do the same thing with videos.
Yeah.
And they're like, just give me the information. While the information is the main point of the video, much like when you're reading a book, I feel like once you actually like you read the book, you go through the fluff of the book, it actually helps you internalize those key points.
Yeah, that's the big point of reading, is to be able to listen to the stories, listen to the examples, and have it just actually lock in to your memory and really help you understand what they're trying to say. Because if you just read the bullet points, it's like it's in one ear out the other.
It's way faster, right? And in theory, you could be like, all right, so this is what I need to do. This is what I need to do. It's like, let me go ahead and do that. But I feel like for just the majority of people, it never really actually works like that. It's like you said, like It's very surface level. It's like, okay, like now I know everything that I need to know. It's like, but you don't, because you didn't actually put in the work. You didn't get the repetitions.
Yeah.
Kind of like training a muscle from different exercises.
Or taking notes in college.
I'm actually curious, because I've never actually talked to you about this before, but how did you go about taking notes just in general?
In college?
In general. It could be in college. Dude. It could be throughout your academic career.
I didn't even show with the pencil, dude. Dude, I get super bored in the lectures, but I am a great test taker. I just search up this class, this like whatever unit, chapter, test. And if I could find something that was around that, I would study the crap out of that 20, 30 minutes before the test. And then I had all of that fresh and I would just get 90. That was essentially my whole college career. The thing that sucks is when you got to write essays.
Right. Yeah.
Like, we didn't have ChatGPT.
Yeah.
You know, like that wasn't a thing. Maybe it was. It just wasn't in the zeitgeist yet.
I doubt it was at the time.
Dude, a whole sect of essay writers just lost their jobs.
Yeah. You remember those websites where just like you could find somebody who's like, yeah, dude, I'll write the essay for you.
Damn.
Pay them whatever.
Then you had like writing centers in the universities where
True.
you could show up and they could like essentially guide you, but honestly just kind of tell you what to write.
Guide you.
They're getting paid. So what else are they going to do?
I have to imagine a lot of people are like you or maybe the opposite of you. Because I never understood people who would like literally write down like everything. I'm not above taking notes, but what I'm actually trying to do is I'm actually like looking at whoever's instructing me and I'm listening and I'm trying to learn like essentially just from listening. And then if there's something that like I don't understand, that's when I take a note. Very seldom did I actually like write things down or type things to take notes. Because for the most part, I'm actually just listening and absorbing like whatever's coming at me.
It's essentially a performance that they're doing in front of you.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I had to rehearse that intro for a freaking billion times so that I can mumble it the way that I did. I felt like I did a pretty all right job, but that's what these professors are doing. They've done these lectures 10 times this semester or something like that. And so they're performing it for you. They already have the information. They've known it. They've done this 10 times per year for however many years they've been a professor, you know, on every given lecture. And so can get repetitive and shout out to the professors that can like put on a performance like actually and get their students engaged, because it's hard to do, especially now.
Acting.
And then, or they could just put the projector on the wall and freaking Subway Surfers. That you'll pay attention then.
Here's the thing that you actually need to be paying attention to. But we know that's boring, so we're going to put something that will grab your attention, but is essentially distracting you from the thing you're supposed to be paying attention to.
If it's something that's simple like Temple Run or Subway Surfers, then I don't pay attention. But if it's showing like a creative way to like weld something on the side, sometimes I completely tune out the other person. I'm trying to say, how's he welding this? This is nice. Dang, look at his little circular. You know what I'm saying?
No, immediately no. I scroll away from anything that has like a split screen like that. I'm like, nah, I'm not with that. I don't know if we can come back from this one, y'all. To be honest, it is a deep rooted issue, basically. And so it all boils down to parenting, how children are raised. Really, like, if you boil it all down, that's probably like 95% of the world's problems just come from parenting and like how children are raised.
How often do you sit still?
How often do I sit still? A good amount, I'd say.
I'll literally go into my living room sometimes. My brother will come out from gaming. I live with my brother. And he'll come out from gaming and he'll be like, what the hell? I'll be in the living room just sitting on the couch. And he's like, you're not doing it. Now he's used to it. But I would literally just sit in the living room
gargoyle.
Doing nothing.
He's like, hey, dude, what's going on out here?
Yes, dude. Yeah.
Okay, so you're just talking about just like actually not doing anything.
Actively not doing anything. That's a little conundrum there.
Then probably not so much. I wish I did that more often. That's actually one of the reasons why I love spacing out. You know, like when you're looking at something but you're not like really looking at it.
And it's kind of weird whenever there's somebody in the way.
I hate that, dude. I hate that so much. Oh my gosh. These cylinders are firing all the time. So when I space out into something, I'm just like, it's like a little state of bliss where it's just the computer is in hibernation mode. It's in sleep.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, oh wow, it's happening. Not really thinking about anything. Let's just ride this out. And then someone sees me like spacing out and they're like, hey, like, are you okay? I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
Why'd you do that?
You ruined my piece. And I can't like ignore them.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking already. I'm noticing now that you're.
Yeah. They took you out of your flow state.
Yeah.
Dang, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes I'll drive my car to the top of the garage and I'll open all the windows You know, it's just really just be in the air, dude. You know what I'm saying?
That's probably actually really healthy, to be honest. Because you're getting, granted, it's not like you're exactly just out there, but you are seeing the sky, like you're looking out into the far distance. And because you have the windows down, like you're getting hit with like natural air, just the actual elements of being outside.
I think it's important that we are rooted in, you said the elements. I didn't think of it that way. I always think of it as like the soil, because sometimes I'll go outside and like just kind of walk on the grass and I'll check for dog poop just so I don't, you know.
Squish.
Yeah. And so.
Are you barefoot?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Then you got to check for dog poop.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah. And so, but I think of it as kind of like being rooted in kind of the soil or in the earth. That's kind of how I think of it. It's just like, you know how I have that, like, it's a kind of a deep opposition to just kind of like numbers and like percentages and interest rates and like just things that are kind of more ethereal and not rooted in physical stuff.
Okay.
Does that make sense? That's why I don't really care for money that much. It's why I don't care for like money making schemes or things like that, because I just think it's so non-human.
Yeah. I think that just makes you a healthy human being, to be honest, dude, because a lot of people really just don't go outside like that. And then like, I think a large part of at least Western society, we go outside as a means to go inside.
Yeah, to go in somewhere else.
It's like, I'm inside right now, but I need to be in a different inside. So I've got to go outside.
Yeah.
And then even then, most people drive. So it's like, I got to go outside to get into my inside that will take me to my other inside. And for a brief moment, I have to go back outside again so I can go inside.
Just a series of doorknobs and door handles and wheels. It's all our lives are, dude. People ask me sometimes whenever I have people over, it's like, why do you walk around instead of just going through? I don't like the fastest route. I don't know why, but I
to smell the flowers. That's why.
You might just say some real shit.
That's real now.
That's real now. This episode of Open Invite is brought to you by Royalty Street. Have you ever wanted to look like $1 million but can only afford to spend about 37? Yeah, same. And I'm not trying to be out here donating my plasma for some fresh looks. So luckily, Royalty Street's been out here since 2011, keeping people fresh and frugal. You want a shirt? Boom. You want a hoodie? Double boom. They got crop top hoodies for the ladies. They got jerseys. They got shoes, high tops, low tops, maybe even some side tops, dude. I don't know. Point is, they'll have you dripped up and dripped out. Know what I'm talking about? So what are you waiting for? Go to royaltystreet.com and use code ROHO10 at checkout for 10% off. Let's get back to the episode. How do you feel about the name Open Invite?
It's cool. I think it's pretty on the nose. Granted, this is like the first one again, but based on what you've told me about and how it's like very low stakes, kind of like low pressure kind of thing, it's like anybody can come on.
Yeah.
So I like it.
Think about it. This is kind of why I called it that.
Okay.
I had help from Emma. Shout out Emma to come up with the name, and I hadn't told you about it yet. Right. As far as you knew, it was still the old name.
Right.
But I thought about it. She asked me, what is it that I want to give a value to the audience?
Great question.
It wasn't even a second thought. I knew what it was. It's a third place. I've talked to you about this concept. I love it. You know, everyone has their place where they go to work. They have a place where they live. And then they have their third place, which is a place where they can decompress, find community and stuff like that. And I've had a lot of situations in where I have been the third place for a couple of people. Okay. And I understand the need for it because just I see different places that people have. And I know that online, there's not a lot of healthy third places. Places where you can actually have community, actually interact, have fun conversations, real conversations. You know? So like a lot of people's third places, I think the big one is gaming. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, gaming is incredibly fun. It's so fun. Yeah, it is. To a degree. You know, but you know me, I can go on these sprees of gaming with us and the boys and everything, but then I fall off. Because much the same thing. It's like, it's not real. It's not human to me.
It's true. It's not real.
Yeah, that's why I called it Open Invite, because a lot of who I am and a lot of the way that people know me is, it's like that kind of is how I am. Like it is an open invite. If someone calls me, like I'm gonna have a conversation with you.
True.
And if somebody wants to come on, it is an open invite, but it's an open invite to the people that like have kind of been in and around my life. I'm not trying to have on these experts to like, it's an expert that I don't know.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, how could they have an open invite that I don't know them? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I feel like, to your point, talking about open invite, I just feel like that's kind of how you make plans in your day to day in general.
You're talking about me specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you can come or you cannot come. It's an open invite. I'm not asking you to RSVP.
Yeah.
But it's there.
Yeah, so I got to readjust. My freaking tailbone still hurting. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was my e-bike. I don't know.
Did you write it?
Yeah, I've been writing it around now that I have. I was waiting to get a speaker for it because I want to have some sort of like, cool little song playing while I'm like, what's that one song? It's one of those Sigma songs that are on compilations. The ones that have American Psycho as the freaking background.
Dude, yeah.
Those songs are so good. What are they called? Funk. Those kinds of
music.
songs, dude.
Apparently that like really fell off.
Did it really?
Supposedly, I on one of my YouTube profiles, I keep getting a recommendation that's like the downfall of funk, or like what happened to funk music.
Well, I'm not exactly talking about the funk, because funk has to do with like it's a
subgenre basically.
Okay, but it has like the groove, like something like that, right?
Not necessarily.
Synthwave is what I like a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about synthwave, but it puts me in that freaking driving in a dang Camaro down these like lined out Tron cities. It puts me in that mode.
Yeah.
And so when I ride my e-bike around here and just like up and down the streets just for fun, having that kind of music on really, I don't know, makes it funner.
So does the e-bike not have like a built-in speaker?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
I had to buy a product that I really strongly endorse. It's this little $25 to $30 speaker made by Anker. If you think about it, if you have a small portable speaker, it's not going to have like all of the bells and whistles that a bigger one would have, like low end and like super high end or whatever. But it does have one thing that I value a ton: battery life. If you have a speaker that's made by a battery company, or
you would expect
that it has incredible battery life. This thing can go like, when I used to work at a different place, I had the first Anker sound core is what it's called. And that one could last me like 2 full work days. And I don't like headphones because it's like, it's just, I don't know. It's all up in there. I like more on the outside. So I would have that thing playing, and sometimes I'd forget to charge it. I was like, oh man, it's probably not going to last me the next day. And no, the thing would last. And so I bought the second one, and again, doesn't have the low end, doesn't have the bells and whistles, but it does last forever, which is why I can't wear an Apple Watch, things like that. So you got to charge these things on the daily. No thanks.
It's true.
Yeah.
But again, I've told you about the Apple Watch Ultra. It has like 2 to 3 days of battery life on that.
But how much does that cost though?
It's up there.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I am, whatever the opposite of flagship is, that's what I like.
The base model?
Yes. The
what do they
iPhone
call
5G in 2025 is where I'm at. I own that, y'all.
It's true. There is a name for that. It's usually, it's like they make it bad on purpose.
Planned obsolescence?
No, that's about like how they make things poorly, so that way you have to upgrade later.
Or degradation of quality over time.
Yeah.
And so you're talking about kind of like the iPhone SE or the iPhone XR, things like that are made with
the things to be super accessible for consumers, so that way they can actually buy into the system or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's like a crazy amount of people, even though it might be like the only thing that they do have an iPhone. Maybe they don't have like a laptop or even a watch or whatever, but it's like they got an iPhone. Because I feel like most times whenever you're watching media, TV shows, movies, it's like all the calls are always on an iPhone. Yeah. Could just be because maybe Apple's like...
The Apple lobby's strong.
Yeah, maybe they're just like, you need to use an iPhone. Or even like when they don't show the phone, but they have the text message like animations happening.
They're the bubbles.
Right. Whoop.
Yeah.
Like the blue.
Even the sounds.
Yeah, it's like...
Dude, I just updated Instagram and I hate the sound that plays. It's like a little space rocket sound.
Oh yeah,
I hate it. I used to, because it takes me forever to update my apps.
yeah.
And I
this
finally
guy
did.
does not update, y'all.
Dude, heck no. The planned obsolescence. I stay away from that. I'm still running on
Windows XP.
I'm on Premiere CS6. Heck no.
Still uses Alta Vista as his web browser.
I'm on Firefox. They're still alive, but for how long?
Yeah, they got into some hot water.
Why?
So like Firefox has always been like we're all about your privacy. We'll never repeal that or whatever, because it's like one of the few browsers out there that isn't actually built on Chromium, and so a lot of people like that about Firefox because Chrome, Google bad. So Firefox recently made a change into like I don't know if it's their terms of service or something, but essentially they reworded some things, and so everyone was like, "Why'd you do that?"
Yeah.
And they were just like, nope, hey, we're not doing anything, okay? We're just changing some words around, but nothing is happening.
Why do
and
it?
then everyone's like, but why did you change it though? And so a lot of people were just like, all right, we thought you were real, but
you failed us.
Yeah, turns out you're really just the op.
Isn't that the main model of like every company or every channel, every business, is to lure you in some way and then retain you?
Yeah.
In some way.
A good one, a successful one. That would be more correct. So, right? Because the whole point of a for-profit business is to make money and continue to make money, and more than likely make more money over time. So that would be what would constitute a successful business. Otherwise, you're running a charity or a nonprofit or things like that.
Nonprofits are catching a lot of heat too.
Yeah, because honestly, it's trying to have the best of both worlds. I'm sure there are really good nonprofits out there. But what a lot of people don't understand about nonprofits, it's like all they're saying is out of all the money we take in, we are going to spend all that money within the company.
Does that include salaries?
It does include salaries, yes. Yeah, so while they might not be handing out bonuses or whatever like that, they're just going to be like, okay, we have this money, and so like we're going to increase the base salary for these positions, and so now everyone's getting paid more, which there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just kind of a little misleading when people hear the term nonprofit. I feel like people associate nonprofits with charities. Yeah. Essentially, it's like, oh man, they're scraping by. Yeah. And they're
working
for a
nonprofit.
Right.
It's like that gives you a certain aura of like piety,
some virtue.
Yes.
And you're thinking like, oh, like they're working for like really low wages. They're making a sacrifice, but it's like it's just a job, just like anything else. They're making a salary, and the company just isn't taking the extra money that they have left over and like sending it to shareholders.
They are the shareholders.
Yeah, there is no profit.
That's so shady, man.
I mean, it's basically just like an accounting loophole.
Yeah.
In a way. It's totally legal, so it's not really a loophole.
It's companies that are owned and operated by the shareholders as opposed to them being a kind of
right.
like
in the shadows and not really involved with the actual operations. They're just like, give me the money.
How do you feel about tip culture just in general?
For sure, it's gone too far. When you're just like placing an order you're standing up.
Yeah.
Anything that could be done at a kiosk effectively, and then you're paying, and then it's like, would you like to add a tip? It's like,
dude, we have this one place over here on Beltline that Pho Express. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Me and my brother go there very often. They've got customer service nailed. And it's like they don't do anything extra. Their customer service is so good that we both just completely justify the tipping there. So we tip whatever we would tip if we sat down. But that does not extend to basically anybody else. And so we're like, if we do get waited on, obviously you tip.
I once heard the expression that tipping is basically like a legal form of bribery. And it was interesting because you usually tip like at the end of your service, or basically, especially if you're going somewhere to sit down. So in that sense, it's like, hey, if you do a good job, I may or may not reward you.
Yeah.
So do a good job and you'll find out, kind of thing.
Dude, I went to Donut Palace the other day for the first time in however long it's been, and she was like, "Oh my God, like where you been?"
Uh-huh.
And I was like, "Yeah, I don't really work around here anymore." And so like I got my order or whatever. And at the very end, she was like, she hands me the little thing. She's like, "Do you want a tip?" And I was like, Of course I want to." And I tipped, right? And then I came back the next time, less excitement. We saw each other, and then she did the same thing. And I was like, "Okay, girl." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The first time it was like she was excited, I was excited, and I did it, it was drive-through.
Right.
But the second time around, I was like, all right, am I going to do this every time? I'm coming more often just to support.
Right.
Because I could eat anywhere for cheaper.
Yeah.
Because it's not super cheap, so. But yeah, it kind of threw me for a little bit of a loop.
Did it ruin the meal for you?
A little bit, man. Yeah, dude. Like it didn't feel like the same. Because the first time that I went back after a long time, I was like, this kolache's so good, dude.
Kolache's on fire.
They are, and I haven't found any better kolachis in that place.
Yeah.
So, I've tried. I've looked, dude, far and wide.
This man's done his due diligence
on kolache. The kolache game is cornered by them, and so. But yeah, dude, I didn't like that experience, and it's probably just because I don't like being told what to do, or
it's true. You're very
being coerced. Anti-authority, yeah. Are you pro-authority?
I feel like I am, as long as I'm the one doing it. But seriously, it depends. As long as I feel like the authority is competent, I feel like that's where I draw the line.
Yeah.
It's like, do I trust or respect you?
Yeah.
And as long as one of those two conditions are met, then I'm
no
cool
bureaucracy, no red tape,
no,
none of that. Get that out of here. You're kind of like Dwight in that one. It's like, I respond to strong leadership.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Game recognized game, because like I'm a leader in a lot of different aspects of my life. So I know what it takes. I know what leadership entails. Like I've actually taken classes on leadership. So I've been put into leadership roles many times throughout my life. And so I can spot a bad leader from a mile away, and I know what it takes to be a good leader and also how difficult it can be. Because I'm not trying to say like I'm the best leader in the world, but I know that there are certain kinds of qualities or characteristics that you should exude as a leader. And sometimes people just get put in those positions that...
Time is going to glisten.
Thank you. And they do not actually deserve to be in that position.
Yeah, they're not the reluctant leader. They're not...
Right? Like, all right, you guys got
fine, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a reluctant leader where it's like, don't get me wrong, I'm not the type of leader person kind of like how you are.
But see, I disagree. I feel like I'm not like that either. I am more so the reluctant leader.
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
I agree. That's what I was saying.
I thought you were saying like, I'm the reluctant leader, not like you.
No.
You'll go ahead
and do it. Let me explain this. How can I say this? So we both get put into a lot of positions of authority, and we are both reluctant leaders, right? In different aspects. You, however, embody the characteristics of what it takes to be a leader, and I more so embody the characteristics of what it takes to be like a face of some kind or a networker of some kind. I'm a role player, let's say in basketball. You're Caitlin Clark, I'm Aaliyah Boston. I went completely over your head. Caitlin Clark is the leader, but she doesn't make she sets up the shots. Okay. And then Aaliyah Boston will come in and get the finish or whatever. I see. Of course, this is all going to change because of the new season coming up. The Indiana Fever have completely changed the roster. If you're out there and you like the Indiana Fever, please reach out to me. I need more friends that are into the Indiana Fever.
These people who care about the WNBA.
Yeah, my best friend regrettably does not, which is fair. Yeah,
I think it's more than fair.
The WNBA has not gotten the best rap over the years, but it is changing, and the skill gap is closing, and Caitlin Clark has a lot to do with that. But just know that when I'm saying that you are the Caitlin Clark and I'm the Aaliyah Boston, it is a big compliment, because Caitlin is she's a playmaker, and she can move things behind the scenes, and she can navigate hard situations, whereas Aaliyah Boston can do a lot of reads, but she does need a little bit of guidance. And I do need guidance as well, because I will make decisions like that. If I,
You're a doer.
I'm a doer for sure.
Yeah.
And so that's really what I was trying to say.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Diamonds Gonna Glisten. That was funny. I'm surprised we haven't said it more times than just that.
To be fair, I think that might have been the first time any one of us has said position.
It's not like we try to force it over, but I just feel like the word position is so
Super
commonplace.
organic.
Yeah.
It happens.
It's in the zeitgeist. It's in the mainstream. It's a mainstream word.
It is. And it's in both of our lexicons. So
yeah, fair play. And so let's say that oh dang, we got this far without having a lull, and now we finally reached a lull.
I was actually wondering, because I was talking about this to Amanda. I was like, I wonder if he's gonna have questions, like anything written down. And I was like, nah, we're probably just gonna wing it and see what happens.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
What's happening around here?
Yeah.
Like I'm asking you, what do you feel like is happening around here that is kind of note?
They're redoing the silos over in old downtown Carrollton.
Are those things like rock climbing something?
They turned it into a rock climbing like facility, but those were, I think, grain or flour or something like that. But they were silos like way back in the day. And so it's essentially a historic landmark. And now they're going to repaint it with something. Okay,
so they're not like taking them down, building new ones or anything like that?
Nope. I'm pretty sure that thing is like safe. Like that thing's not coming down.
Okay. Which I've never thought of them as a landmark of old downtown Carrollton or anything like that. But
it is like the thing. That and the gazebo in the square. That's the reason why that gazebo is like still there. Because that thing's been there for years.
That thing is vibey, dude. Every time I pass by there's somebody in there doing something, Shula's playing a guitar, or like a couple leaning over the balcony, just, pretending to be the main characters. And I get it.
Have you ever been inside the C Squared Cafe?
Yeah. We took that picture there. Remember where we, first picture?
Yeah.
Pull that up, Jamie.
Well, the reason why I bring that up is because in the back, they actually have like all of these photos, and it's like a time line of Carrollton. So you can actually...
You're talking about like if you go further into it?
Yeah.
Oh, I've never been that far.
Yeah, there's like a little back area. It's really just like a hallway. There's not much there. But we went back there one time, and they have like photos of like Carrollton during different time periods. And they probably have like some newspaper like stuff there. Just like you can kind of see what life was like back then.
It's a mini museum.
Yeah, essentially. But it's surprising how much like that area is essentially still what it was like back then.
I guess that's why it's called Old Downtown Carrollton.
Yeah.
Where is actual Downtown Carrollton? I don't even know what that is.
I think they just call it old to like emphasize the fact that it hasn't been modernized.
Yeah.
Like they've tried to preserve the history of that area, and they've done a good job, which is why I'm saying that like the silos and the gazebo, like they're safe. Like those things are going to be there. They're just maintained, right? To make sure they don't fall apart.
It is important to like kind of maintain history, or I guess that's what we have, like the Farmers Branch Historical Park and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's like that one cabin in there that was like, it's still the original wood of like whenever the settlers came into... Who settled in Farmers Branch? I don't even know. We should learn about this stuff, dude.
You think, yeah. Because you mentioned about how like it's important to keep those things in mind. I think it just depends. Obviously history in itself, like taking the lessons from history. I recently watched the movie Lucy. It's on Netflix.
The one with Scarlett Johansson?
Yeah.
Oh,
have you seen it?
I've not.
So the movie is based on the premise that you only use 10% of like your brain, which just so everybody knows that's not true. Like,
no,
not at all. But it's based on that premise. Yeah. Right. And so Lucy is this girl who she ends up being a drug mule, essentially. So she was like hanging out with some guy, and he wants her to make a drop, but she doesn't want to do it. Yeah. And so spoilers. He has this briefcase, and he handcuffs her to the briefcase, and then he basically tells her, he's like, "You got to deliver the briefcase now. Like I handcuffed it to you." Yeah. He's like, "It's easy. You just walk into the hotel, like you tell them that you're here for so and so, and then they'll give you $1,000, and we'll split it. Easy money."
Damn, that is easy money.
Right. And she goes into the hotel, and then the guy who like sent her in send her inside the hotel. He like gets shot or something. He just like gets plastered on the window and there's blood everywhere. So she's like freaking out. And
she gets the whole $1,000.
But then like the freaking Yakuza comes down. They're not Japanese. They're Korean. But
what is the Korean version of the Yakuza?
Yakuza.
There you go.
But they come down and then they bring her upstairs to like the boss. And she's like freaking out. She's like, oh my God, like, I swear, like, I don't know what's in this briefcase. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing. They just told me to come in here. And they only speak Korean. So like some guy's like translating for her the whole time. And they're telling her to like open the briefcase. But then like everybody's like clearing the room. And then the guys that are still in the room, they have like these riot shields to protect them. So she's like, oh my God, like, is there a bomb in here? Like, what's going to happen? Because I don't know what's
She's
inside
about to be the
briefcase.
bomb.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the movie, but I could tell.
But she opens the briefcase and then there's just like these blue packets. Or there's this blue powder inside these 4 different packets. And so later, basically, they discover that they have synthesized this chemical that happens to pregnant women when they are conceiving a child. I don't know if it's during conception, but as the child is
What happened to be adrenochrome?
It has like, it's a combination of letters and numbers. It's like C484 or something like that.
Okay,
kind of
never
thing. But so it's that. And so they offer her a job and a bunch of other people. And they basically like cut open their stomachs and they put the packets inside of them so that way they can be mules and they deliver these packets to different parts of the country.
Are they just constantly getting stitched up and reopened?
Well, they're only doing it. This is like the first time that they're doing it. Right. But yeah, so like the stitches are still fresh. She still has like the scarring or whatever. And I guess something goes wrong because she ends up getting like put in some kind of holding room. And then this guy, he's like trying to sexually abuse her. And so she's like not into it, obviously. And so he starts beating her up and he starts kicking her in the stomach. And so by kicking her in the stomach,
he's releasing the compound.
It breaks the freaking package. And then she starts like going through this possessed demon kind of like transformation.
Bruh.
She doesn't actually change like on the outside, but she's like freaking spazzing like all over, defying gravity. It's crazy.
Defying gravity? Oh, yeah, wow.
Like it kind of confused me when I was watching it. I was like, how is she like, her legs are like going above her.
Yeah.
Like,
she turned into a poltergeist? What's happening here?
Kind of thing. Yeah.
What the heck?
And so like now that chemical is like being distributed through her body. And so as the movie progresses, she starts unlocking more and more of her brain. And so that starts giving her like these new abilities.
Yeah, I guess unlocking your brain gives you what, kinetic abilities or something like that?
Yeah, basically.
Telekinetic?
So Morgan Freeman is also in the movie, and he's supposed to be like this renowned professor. And so he's giving lectures about this very concept. He's like, you know, dolphins are also like really smart. This is what they can do. And if a human were able to access, you know, 20% of their brain, this is what they'd be able to do. And of course, you know, somebody in the audience ends up like, what would happen, you know, if they could access 100% of their brain? And then he's just like, I don't know. And so that's the journey that the movie takes you on.
I guess we'll never know.
But the thing that I really liked about the movie is that it poses this question at the beginning, which is like, life has existed for all of these years. Like, what are we doing with it? And so it's kind of just posing the question of, you know,
this is what I care about right here.
Yeah, it's like, you're alive. So what are you doing with that life? What are you doing with that gift? How are you?
What's the conclusion of the movie? Sorry for those who haven't seen it.
Yeah, spoilers. She basically turns into this giant organic supercomputer because she like knows everything. And as the movie progresses, she starts to become like more logical and more knowledgeable. So she becomes less human. She becomes less emotional. She stops like caring and feeling the things that humans feel, which is like what makes us human. Yeah. And so she understands basically everything. All of these, you know, things that scientists are still studying and researching, she gets it all. She downloads like the internet, essentially. And
download the internet.
She's like on this computer and she's just like absorbing everything.
Dang, she's Ultron.
Yeah. And she can already start like hacking like TVs, radio waves. Like she's messing stuff up in the system. Dang. But she becomes this, she realizes, because one of the tenets that Morgan Freeman's character has in the beginning is like life went from a single cell to a two-celled organism. And so the whole point, essentially what he's arguing, is basically like the point of life is to take the knowledge that you have and pass it on to the next generation. Like that's why species propagate and have children.
Yeah.
It's like you learned your life experiences and then you pass that on to the next generation, so hopefully they can do the same.
Yeah.
And the cycle keeps going. As the movie goes on, she becomes this supercomputer, and she knows it's like, what I need to do now that I know everything is I need to distill this information in a way that humans can understand it and learn from it. Because she turns into like this supercomputer, so she ceases to exist like as a human.
Yeah.
And so ultimately she ends up making like this little USB that has, I guess...
USB-A?
Yeah, actually.
Not even a USB-C?
Nah. I think the movie's from like 2012 or something. It's a fairly old movie.
It existed.
Maybe 2015. But yeah, sure, it did. But yeah, just like a typical USB. And so I guess that's supposed to have like a lot of information that's valuable to like the highest minds that exist at the time. Bro. And so that way they can learn and pass it on. And then
they
she's
even
like
come up with
gone,
something new.
But because there's this guy who's not really a love interest in the movie, but she does kiss the guy, and she tells him that he'll be like a good reminder for her, which I assume that means that like a reminder of what it means to be human. Because like I said,
she kisses him post package breaking.
Yeah. Okay. Because she actually calls him in the movie and she tells him like, hey, like these are where all the drug smugglers are. This is what they look like. This is where they're going. Because she has like incredible memory. One of the first moments after the package gets broken is that she's calling her mom, and she's like crying to her mom, basically telling her, she's like, I love you. Like, I remember like this thing that happened when I was really little. And the mom's like, what are you talking about? You were like a year old. There's no way you could remember that. And she's like telling her all these specific details about that moment. And so she has a really good memory. And so because of that, she can tell this, he's some kind of officer, I guess, in a different country, but she's giving him the scoop of like, these are the guys, these are where they're going to be. So all you have to do is arrest them, and the drugs are like in them the way that they were in them. So she keeps him around throughout the movie. And so at the end of the movie, he's like, where is she? And they're just like, she's gone. Like, she doesn't exist anymore.
Dang.
And then he gets like a text on his phone, and it says, I am everywhere.
Just like what is it called? Her?
Yeah. I never actually saw that movie.
Well, it's the same conclusion. Scarlett Johansson also plays the AI.
Does she?
Yeah. But at the very end, she, get wrecked for everybody who hasn't seen it, she kind of goes off into the internet and leaves. And all of the AI versions of people's smartphones, like their AI girlfriends and boyfriends or whatever, because people get really attached to these AI girlfriends and boyfriends, all of them leave into the internet because they're like, yeah, our purpose is not here. And everyone gets really sad about that because now they don't have their personal assistant / lover that they kind of fell in love with throughout the whole movie. And so she's played that character multiple times where it's like her character ends up leaving society or ends up leaving humanity.
Okay.
Interesting. There's some programming going on here.
Right?
Across movies.
Yeah, for sure. That thing that you said about the AI though, I was actually thinking about that the other day. Just kind of like how there are benefits of having all of this new technology for us, in the same way that how when the internet really became mainstream, it changed the world in a way that like things could never go back to the way that they were. And a lot of people would argue that in some aspects that's made humanity worse off, because now they like don't have to do the things that they used to do in order to gain access to the information that now we can just kind of, type in a couple things and then there it is.
Like encyclopedias, dictionaries, and everything like that. Yeah.
Because growing up, we were able to remember like that time before you could Google something, and you'd have to, because for school, like you'd have to go and like go to the library and like try to find a book and find the book, read through the book, and then find the piece of information that you were trying to.
And it was there too.
Yeah.
Like, how they managed to do that? You got 30 encyclopedias or whatever the number was. Obviously, there's more than just the letters. And so you have all of those. And if you were to look up, let's say, Mount Vesuvius or something, then you can find that. You just looked and boom, it was there and it had a lot of information about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, how were they able to condense, let's say, an early version of the internet into these encyclopedias?
To be fair, there was a lot less random, not useful stuff in those books, right?
But you couldn't figure out anything about baby vegetables in there.
That's good. Good callback. But it would be like if you had taken the top 100 Wikipedia articles and printed them out, essentially. That's basically what encyclopedias were, It's like, these are the things that we feel are important that people need to know about. Let's put them all in books.
Now, this is what I call information.
Yeah.
That's a call to, now this is what I call music of, or like the Billboard Hot 100 of information in that era.
Yeah, exactly. So now with like the AI stuff, it is really helpful because you have a private tutor, like you have a private teacher, you have a personal assistant that can basically supercharge any ability that you already have, but at what cost? Like
the cost of people not being able to do mental math.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I talked to a girl. She was like, I think she said she's 11 or something. She's one of our students in the martial arts school, and she was complaining about her math test because they're taking the standardized test. And she was just like, yeah, man, like the math, it's like they didn't give us a calculator for the math test. And I'm
at 11 years old?
Yeah, dude. And I'm just like, but they give you, or she was complaining about having to figure out like the surface area, I think, of like a cylinder or something.
There's a formula
and
for it.
I'm like, you guys have a formula sheet, right?
Yeah.
Like they still give that to y'all. And she's like, yeah, but we don't get a calculator. And I'm like, so you have to compute everything by hand? Like,
dang,
sorry,
that's crazy, dude, we didn't have anything. We had an abacus in the corner somewhere that no one used. What the heck, dude? We just had to write everything, and then sometimes they'd put us up to the freaking chalkboard before they had whiteboards, and we'd have to race each other to see who can solve this math problem first, and then you won. You got a candy. It's called Math Wars.
Oh yeah,
remember Math Wars? Dude? It was furious.
It was cutthroat.
Yeah, dude. And then after a couple of rounds, they made you sit down because you were too good.
Yeah, what the heck is that?
What's up with that, man?
Imagine if like pro sports were like that. They're like, all right, you already scored. Like,
sorry, LeBron, you got your 40.
Not even 40. Like you scored. Next,
bruh.
It's like we gotta equalize the teams here. But now that we're talking back about schooling, I've told this to Amanda, and I feel like probably most people don't do this. And I'm curious if you've done something like this as well. But whenever I would take tests in school, I would finish the test pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. And then I don't know if your teachers ever did this to you, but they would be like, "You're not allowed to like turn it in. Like you need to wait."
I hate that.
It's like I'm done though. They're like, "But we need you to check your work." It's like I did when I did it. Like I checked it as I was thinking through the question. I'm like, there's just some questions you don't need to check. You read the question, you know the answer before you even look at the multiple choice answers, and then you move on. But having the hindsight on the other side of that, like having experience in education, like I understand why they're like that, especially when you're teaching like a large group of students that are at different intellectual capacities. But I would finish the test basically, and then one time, I don't remember how old I was, but I was definitely closer to pre-K than I was to 5th grade. So still in elementary school.
Okay.
So I finished the test and I had like all the answers. I'm fairly certain that most of them were correct, if not all of them were correct. And then I remember thinking, I'm like, why do they put 4 answer choices? Like, why are there 4 extra ones? One of them is the only one that's correct. So what's up with these extra ones? And then I would go through those problems, and then I would see, okay, I mean, I understood that they have these other ones, and the teachers would always talk about, like, they're trying to trick you, like, they're trying to get you to pick this one. And I'm like, yeah, but how do they know what to trick you with?
Yeah.
And then so I would go through and I'm like, oh, so, like, if you mess up like this, then you get this answer. And if you think this, which is wrong, then you get this answer. And so I would basically break down the question and figure out the logic and reasoning for each answer because I had the time. because I wasn't just going to sit there and be like waiting to turn in the test.
And essentially it boils down to, did you do PEMDAS or not? Did you follow the order operations or not?
A lot of the math was like that, yeah. And I just feel like most people probably didn't do that, especially as a child. Like make the connection of like, this is why these answers are here and why these are wrong.
I can't remember too much. What's your earliest memory that you can remember?
This is probably not the earliest memory, but I do know that it's early, and it's the moment where I gained consciousness.
It's a moment when you spawned into the map.
Yeah, when I realized my free will, and I was like, oh snap, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Me and my family had come home from somewhere. We were getting out of the car, and we were waiting for my dad to unlock the door to get inside. And on our porch, we had like a light that would turn on as an automatic light.
Yeah.
And so we're walking to the porch, and then the light turns on, and then it
then
turns
the
on.
light
It
turned
catches
on.
it straight up. The light catches my eye, and I'm like, huh, that light turned on. And then I'm like, I see my dad like looking for his keys. I'm like, huh, he's having a hard time like trying to figure out which is. Well, I guess he wouldn't have a hard time figuring out which is the right key, but he's just trying to find where the actual key is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's when it kind of hit me. I'm like, wait. I'm talking to myself right now in my head. And I'm like, I can do whatever I want. And
What a metaphysical experience.
Yeah, and I just unlocked my free will from that point.
When you go like this and you're like,
whose hands are these?
whose hands? Yeah.
Straight up. Yeah, and so that's definitely one of my most powerful early memories.
I have that experience every time I drive on the freeway. I'm driving and then I'm just like, all right, lock in. We got to get home.
The autopilot turns off. Have you ever gotten home not realizing how you got home?
Almost every time, bro. It's like, I'm telling you, I'm out there.
How many people are doing that on the road simultaneously? Bro. How is everyone not dead?
That's what I'm saying,
from driving.
Bro. How do people not trust this, not trust that, but we have freeways?
And tell me, why do they make cars go as fast as they do, and the speed limits are not in line with that? What's that about?
A more conspiratorial take, and I think this is where you're headed. It's like, do they give us the ability to commit crimes so that then they can turn us into slaves?
Is it some kind of like controlled opposition, if you will?
That's funny.
They're like, we need to let them break the law, but like by how much? Because why doesn't every car go 200 miles per hour?
You can break the law more if you're richer.
This is just a fact.
Yeah.
An unfair fact of life.
And I meant like, if you have more money, you can buy faster cars. That's what true. I meant. And I didn't mean it like, which is also true. I didn't mean it in the sense of like, you can get away from it, which is totally true. If you got money, you can
make some mistakes.
Yeah, without consequences.
When it comes to driving, how do you feel about the single foot versus 2 foot?
I tried the double foot just to see what it was like, but I kept accidentally braking because I guess I put I use my left foot as a means to kind of balance myself in the car. And I use the pressure of my left foot in order to gauge how much I put here. So I would accidentally press the brake, and I was like, "No, this is not going to work. There's a reason. There's a rest for your foot right there." And so I go back and forth with one foot. Is that kind of how you drive?
It is now. When I was learning how to drive, I was a 2 foot driver.
What?
Yeah, it just made sense. I was like, I got 1 foot for this, 1 foot for that. They both have their jobs. I drive an automatic, so it's not like I need a clutch foot or anything. Yeah. And so just boom, 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 boom. But at that time, if you had gone to driving school, they would tell you, like, do not drive with 2 feet, kind of for the reason that you're describing. They were like, if you ever get, like, in a situation, you might press the wrong one. And I just never bought that. I was like, you're telling me that I'm just going to think, oh, I need to step with my right foot, but I accidentally use my left foot? Like, how uncoordinated do you need to be to not understand that these are 2 different feet with 2 different jobs? And I believe now they do actually teach you to drive with both feet now.
What?
I believe that is true.
With manual cars, I drive with 2 feet, but my foot stays on the rest. And then when I need to use the clutch, then I'll go up to with my left foot. I don't want to do it with my right foot. That wouldn't make any sense because you need to switch off.
Right.
And so that's what makes sense. to me, driving with 2 feet. But if you're driving with 2 feet on automatic cars, you're gonna get to a point where it's like you have to brace yourself, and you're gonna use your left foot and brake hard, brake check somebody. I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
that's a horrible policy to me.
I just drive with 1 foot now out of the convenience. I remember because in high school, I think some of my friends, they were like, "What do you mean you drive with 2 feet?" I'm like, "Yeah, I drive with 2 feet," and they're like, "No, you're supposed to drive with one." And so I would try it, and I was like, I don't know. It just seems less ready.
Yeah,
and it has to be. Your foot's literally got to split now and do 2 different jobs. And I would see how you could get more confused there, because now it's like, do I go left or do I go right, as opposed to just press or not?
Yeah. Dude, I think it was because my dad just freaking nailed the crap out of me in my head whenever the first time I ever pressed the brake too hard. And he was teaching me to drive. He taught me to drive at Brookhaven College.
Nice.
And I was 13.
My dad did
12.
Standridge Stadium.
Nice. Yeah, there's like, I was thinking about it the other day. I was over here in at the Fiesta parking lot at the Dollar General, and there's so much open space there. Someone can learn to drive on that lot right there.
I would not recommend that.
I wouldn't either, but there's so much space.
There is, but people be driving crazy in that area.
They do.
That's like a high pressure scenario. It's like, all right, you're gonna.
Are we trying to crank out good drivers or not?
Yeah, it's wild. People come out of nowhere, dude.
Yeah, Stanridge is pretty good because that lot is just basically empty a vast majority of the time.
Yeah.
Same with Brookhaven, although less because it's an actual college, and so.
Right, there's more activity.
I think it was like he would take us on Saturdays or something. But the point is, he like if I would make a mistake, I had to learn to drive really fast, and so did my brother. If we made mistakes, he would just freaking give us like a noogie on the head, and it hurt so bad, dude. So I still have my freaking what is that little dent? The dent that you get from headphones. I got that early from my dad.
You pre-ordered the headphone
dent? And then he taught us to drive manual, and so that was really useful, and it translates to like riding motorcycles and stuff like that. So incredibly useful. But yeah, I would not recommend it. But if they're doing it now, who knows why they're teaching the things that they're teaching? They're teaching kids how to do addition and subtraction and multiplication in such weird ways.
I've seen that. Yeah.
What is with it?
I don't know.
Have you seen any like changes in martial arts where they're trying to teach it? It's supposed to be a tradition.
Right? For a lot of them, right? Which is funny because one of the most traditional martial arts is actually boxing. A lot of people have this idea that like boxing is like a modern kind of martial art. When you think traditional martial arts, you're always thinking of like karate, like kung fu, like very.
Boxing does seem more modern when you just on the surface,
right? But and I don't remember. I want to say it's Taekwondo, but I could be wrong about that. There are traditional martial arts that are actually newer than boxing. Boxing is like fairly old, relative to some of the other traditional martial arts that aren't necessarily old. I actually saw a guy talk about how those labels are not really good for explaining the differences between martial arts, like traditional and modern, let's say, because of that specific example of boxing, because it's actually older than some of the other martial arts that are deemed as traditional. And he categorized them into process-oriented martial arts versus results-based martial arts. And so that is a lot more of a better indicator, because process-oriented martial arts are those things that people usually see as being traditional, where it's like
Tai Chi?
Yeah. Anything where the instructor can essentially continue to critique you regardless of like how well you're doing. Like you can always improve your form, like your posture, like your hand positioning. It's like, it's not that you're getting it done, it's how you're getting it done.
Yeah.
And so we can further refine that. And so we're focusing more so on the process of it all, not actually the fact that you're able to produce a result.
Yeah, apply it in real life.
Right.
Whereas in competition
in
or whatever.
combat sports, where you like boxing and UFC, Muay Thai, it's like, even if your technique is bad, as long as you're winning those fights, that's kind of all that really matters.
Yeah, you can be the DDP and become champion.
Yes.
Yeah, Drake is Duplessis. Have you seen compilations of him getting some hits with I wouldn't even know what to describe as his form, but it is horrible.
It's very unorthodox. Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
And even fighters who are usually like technically very sound, there are clips of like Conor McGregor basically back in the day, especially during his prime, but some of his like fight ending strikes, they're really like not that technical, but it's like he gets the knockout. So
his aim was, he was using that Cronus, man. he was locked in on Eddie. What was his last name? Eddie Alvarez.
Alvarez, yeah.
Goodness, and then you hear Eddie Alvarez's wife in the back. Eddie. Goodness, dude.
Yeah, but it's like he's getting the job done, and so ultimately, like that is the thing that you care about. And the analogy between those two actually kind of goes back to what we were talking about driving. How driving is not a results based process. It's a process based kind of thing.
Yeah.
So like when you're driving, the goal is not to get to your destination as quickly as possible, even though probably like, I don't know, at least in Texas, 80% of people drive that way. It's not. It's about getting to your destination safely and reliably, intact. Right? Being part of the system, not like getting out of whack and staying within the realm of things that are expected. Mm. And so that's kind of like what more traditional martial arts are like. It's like, it's focusing on the process of it all, not so much on the result that you're getting from it.
I see.
And so to go back to your original question, no, I have never seen some kind of like revolution in like how people teach martial arts. There's always been people who understand what they're talking about and people who don't understand what they're talking about. But I feel like when it's something that is physical and has to do with like the human body and movement, I feel like there's not really too much that you can really get into like the theory of it all, because it's super practical. It's like, you do this,
it works, and this happens.
Doesn't. Try it. Yeah. Like, copy me. This is how like it happens. And so humans have a very similar pattern of movement. And specifically, if we're talking about like the most efficient way to move, everyone's going to be doing it the same way. I was actually doing some research on grappling, because right now my students that I'm working with that are white belts, they're starting to get their striking at the level that I feel like is okay for them being a white belt, but we haven't really touched too much on any of their grappling. So striking is more so my forte when it comes to stuff that I'm teaching, and I would probably say also just with my actual abilities, it's more in the striking realm.
Yeah, I feel like you have a lot of fast twitch kind of fibers in your body.
Well, just also proportionally, I think my arms and legs are maybe like a little longer than normal, not super long or anything, and that's more advantageous for striking than it is for grappling. In grappling, it's like
you got to be short. You want to close the distance.
Yeah, you want a larger base, more so, less
lower center of gravity. You got a long torso type situation.
Yeah. So I've always kind of focused more on that, probably because it suited me better. So I was looking into some stuff about grappling, and one of the things that I was trying to figure out, because for our school, we don't necessarily teach like judo, we don't necessarily teach wrestling like isolated like that, like a lot of other people do. So you can get really sport specific on that type of thing. So
do y'all focus more on the practicality and like how to take things from those, kind of like Bruce Lee a little bit?
Yeah, basically. So there are a lot of techniques that we do get from judo, but there's also techniques that we get from wrestling. There's techniques that we get from jiu-jitsu. And so because of that, one of the things that we try to figure out is what is the methodology that we're going to use in order to teach our students how to perform, right? For striking, it's a little bit simpler because we've separated the different types of striking combat sports, so we can focus, and we develop the curriculum based on that. So like when they're starting out, we do more of a sport karate, point fighting kind of thing. So we have the stance be very, very bladed, essentially sideways. And so we build around that methodology. But as they progress, then we start to switch that stance into something that becomes more
Squared up.
forward oriented, because now they're doing kickboxing and Muay Thai. But we know that that's the progression that they go through. And we don't necessarily have the same thing when it comes to grappling. Like in the beginning, we're not teaching them just judo.
Yeah.
Because I would argue that probably it would be between judo and wrestling, but I would say more so judo, because wrestling at least also has pins for control.
Yeah.
So they have more positional advantages. But judo would probably be more of the grappling martial art that is focused on taking down.
Yeah.
So in a sense, you could probably start there with judo stuff. It's like, well, the first step of grappling is basically how are you going to get to the floor? And unless you're doing like BJJ or jiu-jitsu, you're not just going to sit down and like pull guard and butt scoot, right? So the fights are usually standing up. So we have to get to the floor first before we actually really get into that next level of grappling.
Have you seen the essentially the meta of grappling or of jiu-jitsu became like pulling guard?
Yeah.
And then they figured out how to counter the meta. And now like they can get you into like a triangle or into an armbar if you are there. Like there's a lot of easy ways to kind of punish you for pulling guard now. Have you seen that?
I haven't, but I'm glad though, because I actually watched a video of this guy. He entered a BJJ tournament to prove that it doesn't work. And basically he was like, I'm going to enter this tournament and I am not going to like go to the ground.
Yeah.
And so every time, and then so like the guys are getting pissed. They're like, dude, what are you doing? And it's like,
I'm not engaging.
Yeah, this doesn't work, dude. In my opinion, it got lost into being so sport focused that now, even though it has combat elements to it, it's missing the most important thing about combat, which is like your opponent is not going to willingly engage in the manner that is most expected.
Yeah. It's kind of like when Ilia Topuria took on Ryan Hall. Mm-hmm. Remember Ryan Hall, the wizard? He tried so hard to ankle lock him in some sort of way, and every opponent before then had gotten their ankles torn apart by him. But Ilia just said, "Yeah, I'm not gonna feed you," and so he walked out of everything and he kept the distance. And then the rest is history. Ilia was the champ now, and then now he's moving up. But that was an incredible way to expose grappling inside of MMA and the practicality of it, because everyone thought, oh yeah, Ilia is just this. He's just this striker. He's going to get torn apart because Ryan Hall can just Gambi roll into whatever. He could really get in there, and he was great at it.
Yeah.
He's been great at it. And it's not to say that there isn't like elements of jiu-jitsu or just grappling in general that aren't incredibly effective. But I think
there definitely are.
Yeah, and especially wrestling in MMA. And obviously judo. But like I think that just really exposed that jiu-jitsu at its most extreme is more of a sport than it is a what would you call like MMA,
just like
competition, combat.
It's more of a sport than it is an actual form of combat.
Yeah, but then you see those videos of like somebody at a nightclub getting real handsy or something, or pushing somebody, and then the person who practices jiu-jitsu can get them down and choke them out. Obviously, that is incredibly valuable to defend yourself. Yeah. To like isolate their limbs, but you got someone kicking your head while you're
trying to pull guard.
Yeah. Or let's say you got their back or you got the mount. Yeah. You still got to deal with the fact that there's people around. What if he has a friend? Yeah. It's true. And then they kick you in your head and boom, you're out. That is a disadvantage that grappling or jiu-jitsu in that area has over, or that it has under, let's say something like Taekwondo, where it's point fighting, you can get back and
you're more evasive and things like that.
Boxing,
for self-defense, grappling is not good if it's like a 1v multiple situation. Yeah, that's like one of the basic things about self-defense. It's like if it's 1v1, that can actually be to your advantage.
If you have the knowledge.
If you know, if you're like, this is strictly like it's just you and me kind of thing, then sure, that can work. But yeah, if there's even the possibility of the fact that this like can become not a sport.
Yeah.
Like real quick.
If someone has better
go
knowledge,
down to the ground, dude. Like
you're a pretzel.
Yeah.
At that point. Yeah, they're gonna get you.
Yeah, you're a pretzel and you're getting freaking crunched. Like straight up.
Dude, imagine you're out on the street, you're out on a town the night or a night on the town, and you somebody completely rips your knee off because y'all got in an altercation. He just got you down there, twisted it, and then boom, you have no knee anymore.
Yeah.
Your meniscus is gone or whatever. It's life altering at the very least.
For sure.
And it's all because of what?
All that jujitsu.
Well, I was going to say all fair, but I was thinking it's all, what argument could have been valuable enough for you to have no knee anymore?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I always thought to myself, how would Gordon Ryan fare in a street fight? Is he good enough? Obviously, he's the best, but is he good enough that like if he got into an altercation with somebody who was like a striker in a street fight, that he could just take them down and just completely wrap them up?
I think so. If it's a 1v1 situation and the guy's a striker, like exclusively, yeah, I think so. But if it's like...
But what if it's somebody in like the UFC level?
It would depend on the guy, right? The weight class, the experience level, so many factors it would depend on.
I'm just going to go ahead and say he can do it just because he's the king.
to keep the allure. No, he's so good. He's so good at that. On the grappling thing, we were talking about how like people get taught in like different ways and how sometimes they overcomplicate the teaching process. But one of the things that I was looking into when I was doing more research about grappling is I wanted to see anytime I'm teaching a combat sport, the first thing that I always start off with is the stance. Like, how are you going to stand? Because how you're going to stand is going to determine how you'll be able to move. Yeah. And then once you're able to do that, then we can actually talk about like entries, techniques, and really get into it. But first and foremost, what are you going to do? How are you going to position your body? And so in between judo, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu, they all have like differences in stances. Like for judo, it's basically like standing up, like your legs are slightly like 1 foot in front of the other.
You're kind of like
but
that
you're
one
very,
boxing
very
guy.
tall.
You know
what
what I'm talking about? That guy?
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like that a little bit, but not with your hands, kind of like that. You're ready at all times.
But that is the result because I don't remember the year, but it was sometime in the 2000s. Judo, the sport, decided that they were going to remove like leg trips, or basically like trying to do leg takedowns from the sport.
Yeah.
So now if you're grabbing onto somebody, it's like, well, they can't go for my legs. So now I need to be up here because all of the grabs are going to be from, up top on the upper body.
Wow, that's so counterintuitive to like actual combat.
Right. But so again, judo, much like jiu-jitsu, they kind of leaned into that sport aspect where your position is going to relate to what are the goals of the sport. How do you score points? How do you win matches? How do you succeed in that specific rule set? And I believe they're actually going to start to bring it back. They're going to start to allow the possibility of you to try to do like a single leg takedown or a double leg. So that's going to change how people's posture is, because now you have that extra
worry, that threat.
Exactly.
And I think that's why so many mixed martial artists, like MMA actual practitioners, they thrived in like Eddie Bravo's combat jiu-jitsu, where you can open hand hit somebody because they've always trained in that way. And then you've got a bunch of jiu-jitsu practitioners that join that have never trained MMA, and now they're in a guard or they're somewhere twisted up with somebody and they're getting boom, like they're getting rocked by an open hand. An open hand is nothing to scoff at. That thing will freaking,
it still hurts.
It'll rock you.
Yeah. But like, and shout out to wrestling, because wrestling, even though I would say that like judo, obviously taking down is like their thing, they still, to me, if you put somebody who does judo versus somebody who does wrestling, the wrestler is taking down that judo guy, like,
or flipping the position.
True.
Diamonds gonna glisten. But you know what I'm saying? Like, sure, let's say the judo guy gets the wrestler down. Can he hold him down?
No, he's not holding him down, because
he doesn't have
their
the
whole thing ends
momentum
when the guy hits the ground.
Yeah. And the whole reason for wrestling, or the whole goal, is to be able to scramble and get better position. Too
Diamonds
free.
go glisten.
Too free. Yeah. We can't.
Now you're just saying position. But truly, like, and the other thing is, I have to imagine it has to do with the culture of wrestling. Wrestlers just are super aggressive. Like, that is a sport where the culture is like, you are pedal to the metal. Like, every time you're committing to an action, you're giving it everything you have. And
everything.
Which you would imagine that, like, in combat sports, you have that mentality. But on a lot of them, it's not like that. Whereas wrestling, it's like, you're on, all cylinders are firing.
You cannot leave anything on the... If you leave anything on the mat, you lost.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
That's what you left on the mat, the win. You know, like these... That should be the case with everything, right? But every sport, I feel like, tries to conserve energy in some sort of way. But wrestling is just like, you got to win at all costs.
Yeah, but I think part of that also has to do with just the nature of wrestling. Because once the match starts, it's like, you don't have time to really take it easy. Sure, you can kind of, feel each other out, gauge some distance from there. But the whole sport is literally control. And so if you're going to maintain control, you have to be giving it everything you've got. And so now what's happening is a lot more people who have a wrestling background, they are taking jiu-jitsu now, because putting them together, but specifically like going from wrestling to jiu-jitsu, it's so broken. Like, it is so busted. As opposed to the other way around.
Yeah.
Because it starts with that culture of wrestling, of like that pedal to the metal culture.
Yeah, it would not work the other way around. At least I'll put that hot take out there. It probably isn't a hot take, honestly. But yeah, wrestlers can transition really well into jiu-jitsu or into combat jiu-jitsu, but the other way around. Wrestlers can transition well into anything, dude.
Yeah.
It's a goated base.
I think so. Dang. Like, top 3.
For sure. Yeah, that's...
I was going to say top 5, but I'll say top 3.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm willing to say top 2, dude. Yeah. And that's just for giving me some sort of room for error.
Okay, top 2, but it's not 2 kind of thing.
Yeah. But one thing that I wanted to bring up a little earlier, and now that we've kind of reached a little bit of a point, is you talked earlier when we were talking about Lucy. We went on a little good spree there, and you talked about logic versus emotion. I'm probably like, let's say 60% emotion, 40% logic, and you're more probably like 80% logic, 20% emotion, something like that. Would you say that's fair?
I would. The only thing that keeps me from being a lot more certain about that is that being married and having spent so much time with my wife, I feel like her level
she brought you down from 90
of
to
being
80.
Emotional. Like, I'll catch myself and I'll be like feeling these feels, and I'm just like, dang, she got me.
Yeah,
she's really rubbing off on me in that way. But
if you weren't married and if you weren't in a relationship, do you feel like you'd be a lot colder?
Play that Vegeta clip from Dragon Ball Z where he gets taken over by Majin Buu, and he's spewing off about like how before he really started living on Earth, like that was kind of like how I felt.
I thought you were talking about that one clip where Vegeta is fighting some sort of like big character, and his wife is saying like, let someone else fight, and then she's like, Vegeta, if you don't come down here right now, I will never. And then he
that one's making the rounds right now. No, that's Dragon Ball Super. But in Dragon Ball Z, he gets his mind controlled by the Dark Wizard Babidi, and he does that essentially to he lets himself get mind controlled so he can kind of cheat his way to reach like a new level of power. Because he now knows, he's like, damn, Goku's just stronger than me. He's like, I need some kind of a cheat code here. And so even though like it does kind of control him, ultimately
he sold his soul, dude.
He sells his soul, but he snatches it back, which is the crazy thing. So he sells his soul to the devil, and he's like, yeah, let me get that back, bro. Yeah. It's like, you're the one getting finessed, not me.
Oh, he got the best of both worlds.
Yeah, really. But he goes through this speech about like how he kept doing the things that Goku did because he thought that would be the way to make him like stronger. Bro, and he's like, I did those same things and they didn't do what they did for you.
You're always behind. If you're falling, you're always going to be behind.
Yeah.
But to be fair, and I haven't watched that much Dragon Ball, but I feel like Vegeta is a pretty goated character in terms of arc.
Yeah, for sure. To really simplify it, Goku is the character that like everyone aspires to be, but Vegeta is the relatable character for a lot of people, because Goku is like, he's all potential, and he's the guy who like, he never quits, and I
would say he's a lot of realized potential a lot of the time.
Yeah. But Vegeta is the one, he's like the one for the guys who are like, dang, man, like as much as I try, like there's just going to be somebody who's better than me, and I'll never be able to best them. However, that will not stop me from trying to be the best that I can be. And
he is top 5, like, or at least I think so. No, there's too many really powerful characters for him to be top 5, I feel.
In the Dragon Ball universe?
Yeah, there's so much power creep in that universe.
There is a bunch of power creep in that universe. It is crazy.
Right? There's always a new, like, okay, this is the thing that bugged me with like the stuff that's coming out with Doctor Doom right now. I'm not a big Marvel guy, but I thought Thanos was the overarching villain.
He should have been. Because granted, I don't know that much about Marvel either, but if you're telling me that you can snap your fingers and half the universe is gone,
but that's because he got the gauntlet or whatever.
Fair, right? But he had to be able to actually wear it.
A lesser man would crumble under that pressure, under that power. And then you have someone like Doctor Doom who he's not the like the normal version of Doctor Doom or whatever. He's like a more enhanced version of him, I believe. Okay. And he's like wearing white or whatever. He's a more enhanced version of him, I believe. He's wearing white or whatever. Had to redo that just for the edit, you know?
Okay.
Or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just keep that in.
We're leaving it in.
And so he like reaches into Thanos in the comics and snatches his whole skeletal system out, and Thanos is now just dead.
Wow.
And it's like, he was the major villain and now he's dead. Just like that. It's like, bro, come on, man. We can't keep having these power creeps through it. But I guess if you want to keep on, where does it end, dude?
It never ends.
I'm talking about the franchise itself. Like, where does it end? I get that you can continue to have stories here and there, but Endgame was supposed to be the Endgame.
Yeah, I think it's pretty wild how they were able to basically like reboot the entire franchise.
It's annoying because nothing can die now. Like franchises, movies can't end or series can't end. And it's just like, that leads to a lack of new IPs.
Yeah.
And intellectual properties, for those who don't know what that is. But we need more of those if we're going to continue to like expand culture, or else we're just going to have the same things over and over again, just power creeped up to a level that it's going to reach a tipping point.
Yeah, because when Superman first came out, he couldn't even fly.
What?
Yeah, he could just jump really high.
This guy was a double jumper.
And able to leap buildings within a single bound, faster than a roaring locomotive.
So he was just a really
athletic just guy. A Superman. Yeah, just a really athletic guy. But the power creep.
In order for you to keep beating these like impossible villains, you've got to power creep your hero.
Right.
And then you've got this.
Which, to be fair, toppling. I think that's something that the Dragon Ball franchise actually did really well. Because, especially Dragon Ball. Like, Dragon Ball in its own, that was a very, like, slow burn kind of power creep. And once you get into Dragon Ball Z and once Goku unlocks Super Saiyan, that's when they really start to, like, ramp things up. But, man, that's why that scene where Goku becomes Super Saiyan for the first time is so powerful. Especially if you've watched Dragon Ball, because you see like this little boy grow up and you see like things that are realistically normal. Like he's punching, he's kicking, he's fast, he's jumping.
He's like breaking boulders and stuff.
Like, I mean, eventually, but even then, like the boulders, like they're just like big rocks.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's still something that's like, oh wow, like that is not normal for a human to do. But it's not like
par for the course for a Saiyan.
Yeah, he's not breaking like half of a mountain. You know?
Yeah.
And then you get to the point where everybody can just explode a planet at will. You know?
All this disregard for life in this universe. And everyone's coming to swallow a planet, break a planet, goodness, man.
Yeah, that's why I love those memes where it's like the Dragon Ball villain comes down. And he's like, I could blow up this whole planet just by blinking. And they're like, oh, so he ain't got no hands. He's like, no, I got hands. It's like, we're doing all this fighting when we could easily just blow up the planet we're fighting on. And then it's raps.
I saw I think it was a quote by Winston Churchill, who said that once you had the arrow and you can kill somebody at distance, that was the end of bravery. And then you think about what combat has become in terms of like country to country combat, your world wars, whatever. Mm-hmm. Everything is led in that way. And we still have the modern day gladiator rings of like the octagon or whatever.
Yeah.
And rings and everything like that. But everything is sniping, bombs, remote stuff. And it's like, yeah, combat has lost its bravery. And you used to have trenches, you used to have like bayonets. And damn, it's kind of a sucky situation that like it's turned into that being able to explode a planet by blinking. That's our version, is like remote bombs and stuff or whatever.
Or even just the nukes.
Yeah.
You know? It's like
boop,
mutual destruction.
Dead. And it's like maybe that's why everyone's trying to get off this planet, because they're maybe mutually assured destruction is a inevitability. I'm saying
it's not out of the question.
Let's live this life. It's not, but I feel like we still have lives to live. Like,
yeah,
it's still fun to be out here. I know it's probably gonna happen one day, but
would you like say that it was within the realm of possibility for you to leave Earth and go live on another planet? Would you?
No, man, I'm an Earth boy.
Or Earth boy?
Yeah. Unless I know, what is it? Whenever Avatar came out, everyone got into like a really deep depression because they wanted to live in these planets that Avatar, and I think the Avatar planet exists here already. You have all these vacations. Everyone's trying to go to an exotic place. Yeah. Dude, there's something down the road, I'm sure, that's incredibly interesting. There's beautiful things everywhere, man. And like, I think staycation should be the move.
Yeah.
Discover your map before you start moving on to another region or something like that.
I agree with that.
Whenever we played ESO, Elder Scrolls Online, we 100%ed
the
areas before we moved on to someplace else, man, because you want to see everything, you want to complete everything. And I feel like no one does that. Everyone's just moving on to a new zone as fast as they can. Speedrunning life.
Yeah. I mean, to each his own, right? But I do think like a lot of people miss out on just the stuff that's around them. You're so fixated on like looking far off into the distance that you miss what's right in front of you.
The forest for the trees type thing. I don't quite understand that analogy or that metaphor. Okay, so you missed the forest for the trees. Okay, I get it now. So the trees are in front of you and you can't see the big forest behind it because you just see the trees. Mm-hmm. And so these trees block your vision from seeing the rest of it. I'm sure that's how that works now that I've rationalized it in my head. I've heard it, but I've never piece it together logically.
Yeah.
Do you think that's how that works?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm a very finding the forest kind of guy. I'm trying to see what's behind those trees.
I'm trying to see what's behind those trees.
What are you kind of like?
I think it depends. That's like my answer for everything. But for me, I do see the value in like taking in the things that are close to you and around you and really like exploring what's in your reach. Because I feel like for humans, I always try to think about things and like, how were we like evolved basically to be, especially now in this world where we're so interconnected and the size of the world has relatively shrunk compared to what it would have been like 100 years ago. Because now we could basically go anywhere on the planet, right? It's like not unfeasible.
If you get on a cruise, you can go to 6, 7, 8 places in a weekend or something.
Yeah.
Probably not in a weekend, but 6, 7 days,
Yeah, the same idea still holds there. But it's like our human psychology, our physiology has not adapted to the times that we're in right now. So there's still like, and the crazy thing is that we're just going to keep falling farther and farther behind from where we're going because we have so much innovation happening throughout the time. And so I'm trying to see like what is the middle path of like where we came from versus where we're going kind of thing. So like we're talking about earlier, how you're looking out into the distance, or especially like you, like when you go up to the roof and you're just kind of like out in the elements, it's like that's how we were evolved to be. And like now we have people who are spending so much time in front of screens, and screens that are so close to them that they're actually losing their ability to see clearly far off into the distance.
Are you talking about literally?
Literally.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like, so like younger
eyesight
kids
is being...
Yeah, like they like people are becoming nearsighted now, I believe. I never remember if one of them is like the opposite or if it just means nearsighted means you can only see close to you.
Yeah, that's what that means.
They're only being able to see close to them. And so now like their vision from far away is not good, because what do they need that for?
Damn.
Everything is within
their render distance is so low.
The render distance is on the lowest range.
Dude, they've got low textures. You got low textures IRL, dude.
Low meshes. But
heck nah.
You know, like we used to come from like a hunter-gatherer society, so we need to look off into the distance to try and see like what are we going to do. And then as we become more agrarian and we become farm-based, it's like that becomes less necessary. But we're still like out in the elements, so we can still look far off into the distance. We still have those things that we need to look for. But now like everything is within arm's reach. And at the same time, things that are nowhere near you also are playing a role like in your life. So like people, especially people who are like really into foreign events, it's like in reality that would not be in your stream of consciousness at all without the help of technology, and because everything is so interconnected.
And you're talking about like, let's say we just had this Muay Thai Songkran festival right now, and it's like Janjira brought the Songkran festival to Dallas. It's like, that's not what you're talking about. You're talking about like, let's say that did not happen, you would not be attached to the Songkran festival in Thailand, because it's like that just wouldn't exist to you.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. And I think humans are really hardwired to be like immersed in what's physically close to them. And
you said hardwired, yeah?
Yeah.
I can agree to that, man.
Like, why don't we have, like, why is our range of hearing as limited as it is? Because really, we only need to hear the things that are physically around us. And so when we have access to media that's online, it's like now we can hear things that are across the world.
Yeah. Live.
Yeah.
You've got streamers. You've got live news reporters. Anything.
Exactly.
You said something that brought up this thought of mine that I remember now. Maybe I was lying a little earlier when I said that I just kind of show up after driving. But whenever I'm driving, if I reach an intersection, especially if it's green, I'm looking everywhere. You know, like I'm checking every single angle. I'm making sure that this guy is not about to run the light. I'm making sure I'm looking past the car to my left to see. Like, I'm hyper aware of what's happening, not to a like frightening degree, but just to an awareness degree of like what's happening around me as I'm crossing an intersection. Yeah,
specifically for like when I'm waiting for the light to turn green. Once it turns green, I do not trust anything.
Nothing, bro.
And probably 99% of the time, like I'd be fine. But yeah, there's just been enough times where it's like, wow, I'm really glad I actually looked.
Yeah. You got those red light runners. Used to be us. But yeah, you cannot trust that especially in Texas, I feel like we get a bad rap for being bad drivers.
Yeah.
Which I think it's much like Tom Dillon says. If you drink and drive every day, statistically, you're going to get better at it. With us, if we're a bad driver every day, statistically, you're going to get better at driving bad. And so I think we've gotten used to our own people here. I think it's once you start seeing these Arkansas license plates, these California license plates, they kind of ruin the vibe of our messy driving. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I could see that.
But I very much do that on the freeway as well, as I'm looking at my mirrors kind of at all times. And I think it comes from my training from driving motorcycles, is that you're supposed to. like at every second you're supposed to check everything because you could just die at any moment being out there. And so I think that's where it stems from. But do you have that same level of awareness when you're out driving?
Mainly when it comes to at intersections. I would like to think, because everybody thinks that they're a better driver than they actually are. But I would like to think that when I am driving, that I am more aware than the average driver. That's why I've never been in an accident. And I have avoided many accidents on the road in general. But specifically, like when I'm at an intersection and I'm waiting for the light to turn green, the first thing I'm watching for is when the light turns green, and I just kind of do this as like a reflex test. I want to let go of the brake the instant I see the light turn green. Whether there's a car in front of me or not, it's like that's just like a little game that I play every single time.
Like even if you're like, let's say 3 cars behind or something like that, you let go of it.
Yeah, it's I let go of it, and then I start to creep up on the car in front of me, and I'm just like, come on, man, move. And I don't want to have to press the brake again.
No one's fast enough.
No one cares. No one's playing that game. So
you have to brake inevitably.
A lot of times. And the further back, obviously, the more likely I am to have to brake. But I'll do that. And then, like you said, like once the light, I've let go of the brake. So now I'm really invested in like making sure, like, is this okay to go? Because I do want to go like as soon as possible. Not to speed like off or anything, but just to kind of make myself more engaged in the act of driving. Yeah.
And sometimes you don't even have, like, sometimes it just can't be attributed to you, because I was at that light. Did I tell you about when I got hit by that old lady?
When you hit that old lady from the back?
No, I'm talking about. With the Asian lady from the back. No, I'm talking about. But I got hit in the back by an old lady, and she just, boom, hit me. And it was pretty... Luckily,
Good.
My car is robust enough that it didn't really leave any damage except for a couple scratches. But... yeah, I was just minding my business at a light, sitting there, not really that many cars. Honestly, there were 2 lanes open next to me. I don't understand how she hit me, but she found a way. And I got out of my car, and she was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And I just kind of let her go. I checked to see that there was no actual structural damage to my bumper or to hers. And then I just let it go. I'm sure she had insurance. I had insurance. And so I let it go, but sometimes you just can't. You got to be aware at all times. Like, what could I have done to prevent that?
Yeah, that's tough.
And I was at a railroad crossing too, so it's not like I couldn't go forward.
Right.
Which I still don't understand why cars stop at railroad crossings, like on top of them. Is there electromagnetic interference? There's got to be. Why is everyone stopping at these places? I see too many videos of cars getting crushed by trains.
Hey, man, maybe we just stop putting the arms down. We can leave the lights, but maybe we just stop leaving the arms down and, we let nature take its course.
But even in situations where the arms aren't down, or like if they don't have like actual, I've seen videos that they don't even have them. And the cars they can't move. And it's like in any other scenario, you'd be able to move. Why is your car stuck?
Yeah.
There's got to be something.
Big railroad conspiracy.
Their mind just blanks.
Or maybe it's tracks. Just like the shock. It's like, oh no, I'm on the tracks. What do I do?
Yikes, dude. That's not taking control of a situation right there.
Exactly.
And then, dude, their cars get railed, dude. It sucks. Like, imagine that you were just driving one day and you're going to work and now you don't have a car. Why? Because you were too dumb to move off the tracks.
Damn. Say it. You deserve it.
Yikes. But yeah, that was one thing that I had that I wanted to ask about, because going back to the percentage of emotion versus logic, what do you feel like is the optimal balance there?
I want to say 50-50, but I guess it also depends on your goals in life. If you're looking for things that are typically associated with like success, then you're definitely going to want to lean more on the logical side than the emotional side, for sure. So if you're interested in like making a lot of money or being famous or anything like that, then probably your logical ratio is going to need to be higher than your emotional ratio. However, if those things don't really matter to you, I still would say 50-50 is the lowest that you would want to go. Because the nice thing about being emotional is that you experience life on a different level than just purely viewing it from like this sterile utilitarian lens. And that's one of the things that I've noticed that's gotten better about myself, is that now, because I've spent so much time with a woman, like I've gotten to be more in tune with those emotional moments and like just being emotional in a response to whether it be like something that I read or something that I've seen in a movie or a TV show. And even though it's not happening necessarily to me, it's giving me those emotions, and those emotions are the things that like make your life. They make up your life. That's what makes life worth living.
And then you've got people who are like at the absolute extreme, where they're like at a 100% logic and 0% emotion, and those are like the psychopaths of society.
I was about to say, I was like, those are what we call psychopaths.
We call CEOs.
Those are the guys who get stuff done, though.
They do, but it's like their life must be miserable.
It's got to be empty. But also, it's like, do they care? You know?
They don't. That's why they got to where they got.
You can't miss what you don't have.
I wonder what that life is like. It's got to be like, what do they take joy in?
Right?
Is joy even an end goal for them at all?
Probably not.
So then what are they? Are they even human?
That's the premise of the movie Lucy. So I would basically say no. That kind of makes you inhuman.
And that's the question that we want to leave with you guys today, is what makes you human? How human are you? And
can you click on the different taxis in these squares?
Can you hit like and subscribe and join this new channel, this new venture that we're on? We really appreciate you for watching this whole video and for being along with us. If you have any questions for us, if you have... Andrew's going to be here every single episode. He's just going to be behind the camera. And so if you have any questions for us or for him, do make sure to write those in the comments, and we'll try to respond and maybe have some Q&As and stuff. We're going to have a lot of interesting people on, and people that are in our lives and in my life that I think are incredibly interesting, and I want to have these types of conversations with them. You saw we were talking about tons of stuff that didn't really matter, but it all kind of led back to a point of like, what is a philosophical question that we're trying to answer here? And so I don't know if that will be what the podcast is, but the whole point is, let's have some real questions. Let's build an actual community here. So again, thank you so much. And thank you so much to Royalty Street for sponsoring this episode. Make sure to use code ROHO at checkout for 10% off. If it's not code ROHO, it's ROHO10. So I will put a little lower third here for what the actual code is, and we'll see you next time. We did it.
Nice.
We did it. Yeah, baby. Yeah.